Nice. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so who is Sophia? Well, I mean, if I go to share my professional biography,
Yeah.
I am a dance instructor, a choreographer. I am a woman of faith. I'm an entrepreneur, and I am just a multi-passionate woman. I love everything to do with singing, dancing, kids. I love kids. And just in general, just being able to change people's lives in one way or another in a positive light. So yeah, I mean, I've been through a few things that have shaped how I present myself to be. There's definitely been times in my life that I presented to be just like I'm a student, or like I am a choreographer, or I am this. And I think that I focus a lot on the title of who I was versus the actual person, like Sophia is. So it feels really good to say like I'm just me, like unapologetically me, because there isn't a lot of that lately.
I love that. And it's funny you said titles, because I feel like titles are one thing that can chain you to what you do. So I'm wondering, when did you decide not to be limited to one title or to one thing or one profession?
So, I mean, I guess background story. I started singing when I was like 8 or 9. I lost a singing competition, and I was like, yeah, I'm never doing this again. So I didn't. Then my mom started taking me to dance class, like Zumba classes and soca classes. So I started doing that, and I was like, wow, I mean, I'm like, this is my culture, so I can dance, but I also really enjoy it. So from there, I started dancing, teaching, doing choreography. But I was Sophia the dancer.
Okay.
I was Sophia the one who worked at ENCO, the dance instructor at ENCO.
Yeah.
Sophia, like my dance teacher. And that's what I became to be. Like, everyone knew me as that. That's what I titled myself. So I was like dancing all the time, training all the time to be the dancer. It wasn't until I started. I've always like known about God, and I've always been very intrigued about my faith and about where, who I am actually. And who I am started to come up because I was getting lost in a lot of people and things. So almost like I would just go wherever I was pulled. Like I was like a fish hook, and I would just latch on, and wherever it took me, I went. And that was just like an identity thing, where when you don't know whose you are or where you came from, you kind of are just willing to be shaped by your environment. So that happened to me in high school a lot. So grade 11, 12. I didn't go to college or university right after school. I traveled. I was in multiple relationships that to be really honest, and I think I have to be, and this allows other people to, I guess, be freed from a lot of things that they're feeling. I let myself be identified by those relationships. And sometimes we get lost because if we don't know who we are, we end up being what the other person wants us to be.
True.
So that was like when I had it. I think I had a breaking point. And I don't know when it actually hit, but a bunch of people around me were like, girl, like, I can't recognize you. And that's, I think, the worst part that worst thing somebody can say to you when you know you're not being yourself. Like, I got a text message, I remember, and it was like, you're somebody different on social media than you're with me, than you're with your family, than you're with your significant other, and like, I don't like it. And it's those things like that like you either say, oh snap, like I'm not, and what am I going to do about it? Or like, who cares? I'm just going to continue doing because this is what I do. So I decided to take it as like, okay, there's something wrong here, because I genuinely didn't feel good. Not like in my health, and I just didn't feel passionate. I was waking up being like, what is my life? Like, I'm hurt. I'm heartbroken. I feel empty. I have no money. I have no energy. I was working as a bartender after high school, and it was just like, I know what I'm doing, but it's almost like my body was like detached from like everything else, like my heart, my mind, my body, my soul. Like I didn't know what I was doing. So I found a church. I just kind of like started surrounding myself around people that had what I wanted. Like I would see people be happy, and I'm like how do they do that? How does one become happy? How does one begin to love themselves? Like I looked like the most confident person on the outside, but inside I was literally dying, being like I don't know who I am. So the biggest thing for me was identifying who I was in Christ. But not even, before I even got to that, I'm like, who does God say I am? And if you're not a believer, if you don't, if somebody doesn't know about God or they've heard it before, it's it's knowing that you were made by somebody greater and bigger, and that you're not defined by what's on this world, but who you were created by. So that conversation is probably a little lengthier, but identifying like myself as a daughter of God, like it was just like something clicked. Like, I am worthy. I am like meant to be here, you know, like I am not, my body isn't for everyone. I am not meant to do everything. I was called for a greater purpose. And once you start to actually like recognize that you were, and I would see certain parts of myself that I'm like, girl, you're meant for so much more. And people would tell me, I was like, something needs to change. So I'm so grateful for, like, I guess, the places that I've been, the people that I've been with, because it's taught me a lot. Starting my dance business, Confidence in Movement, was probably the first thing that I did after having this like awakening moment where I was like, wow, like I love, you know, especially because I went through a moment where I wasn't confident, to finding the confidence through dance, through Latin dance, through my roots. I started Confidence in Movement. So started with women classes in studios, and then obviously the pandemic shut everything down for me. So I started a dance studio in my basement, opened that up, took some private clients in there. But I started doing outdoor classes for women. And, you know, it was beautiful. Like just seeing women wanting to better themselves physically, emotionally, mentally, and what dance did for them was like my everything. It was like, this is it. This is what I want to do. But maybe other people can relate to this, and maybe you can relate to this. It's like sometimes you feel like it's still not fulfilling you. Like, why is it not filling me up, right? So I realized that sometimes we just, things happen in seasons, and that was my season to go full force on Confidence in Movement. I'm looking to make a comeback with it, but I wasn't Sofia the dancer. I knew I wasn't just that. Like I show up like that, and for that reason I have Confidence in Movement and have my brand. But I knew that I could also showcase what I have, like what's in me and what I have to give in other means, like social media, like content creation, like speaking, like social work, like church events and stuff like that. So I knew that this is a stepping stone in the right direction of confidence in movement. Could be confidence in content, could be confidence in Christ, like, and that was where I was like really started to find my place. And then transitioning into social media, I think it was a combination of, I was tired of seeing fakeness. Like I was just so exhausted of like everybody being the same, looking the same, doing the same. And I went through it, right? Like if everyone's doing this business, then like I'm running and doing the business because they're making money, they're doing the thing, like, and if that's what everyone's doing, that's what I got to do to make it, right? And that's what we think. We think that there's only one way, but there isn't a right way. There's just the way that you decide to do it. So, you know, that like the beginning of the pandemic was probably a little rough for everyone, like it was for me. And it was definitely about setting yourself apart. And the Bible says that a lot. And like Jesus says, I am set apart. And for me, I was like, I know I'm set apart, but I can't find it. I can't find how. Until I found my way kind of in targeting the businesses that struggle to show up authentically and confidently in their own brands and creating that content. So that's when I said, like, this has everything to do with confidence, showing up authentically, creating content that actually appeals to them and their business, but helps people in return. So yeah, I guess that's where I am now. Like that's my transition. It's such a long story, but I mean, I've like, and there's details in between, but that's like where I am now, is being able to show up as like who I am, not who society wants me to be, not what the norm is, because I don't believe that I'm anything close to normal, and not following any structure of what like what a woman in business should be doing, or anybody on social media should be doing. Like, oh, like, you know, you're showing up as yourself, like you don't wear makeup, or you know, you talk about faith, or you talk about things like, you know, that's what we're supposed to be doing, but that's what I want to shine out through my clients and the people that I work with.
So I love that. So then I'm wondering, because I think the dance thing is probably, I can relate with that with soccer when I used to play soccer, and that whole identity component and doing something a lot and then attaching it to yourself. Now I'm wondering how much of say, because you come from a Latin background
Mm-hmm.
and you spent a lot of time dancing, how much of your family atmosphere or dynamic like affected you, especially at that time?
You know what? Like, not a lot.
No? Okay.
I have the most supporting family in the world. Like, I don't know what I do without my family. From my parents are separated, but it doesn't take away from their love and their support for me. Like, if I woke up one day and said, like, I want to become a real estate agent, I'm pretty sure they'd be like, oh, another thing? Okay, go ahead. And my family dances, but it's the cultural thing that they understand that things come in seasons. Like, they told me, they're like, you don't have to do this forever. Like, you don't need to be just doing one thing. And that's probably the best thing that I've had to hear, because if I was stuck doing one thing, then I'd probably be a bartender still. And they were so, like, I didn't just dance when I was dancing. I was a bartender. I had a serving job as well. I was teaching dance, and I was also serving. So like serving at church. So I wasn't like just doing one thing.
This is at what age, sorry?
I'm 24 now, so I was probably like 21.
Okay.
19, 20, 21.
Okay.
And so I was always doing a lot. And for them, they were like, do whatever you want until you find what makes you happy. And even when you find what makes you happy, continue doing other things that make you happy as well. So my family still dances. Like, we'll like... And because it's just in us, like, it's not like I'm missing anything. Yeah. Like, I'll still get up and dance with my dad or with my mom, or we'll still go to dance classes. But I do miss it. Like, I miss it a lot. Yeah. Yeah, I miss dancing.
An only child?
No. Oh, I have three other siblings. I have 2 older sisters and then a younger brother. Okay. Not so much younger than me, but he's like 2 years younger.
Did your sisters have like a big impact on you at that time? Were they also dancing, or?
No, my sisters don't dance. My sisters are actually kind of the opposite of me.
Really? Okay.
So in personality, they're a little bit more introverted. My older sister is a bookkeeper. Okay. So she has her own accounting company. She's also a leader at church in the youth and the indigenous communities. My other sister is a lash technician and she's a great mom. Yeah. And then my younger brother was in like sales, and he's just also very multi-passionate. So they were just very like, okay, you're doing something else, like, cool, let's go. Like, I will take the run with you, you know? So it's really great to have like a positive impact and not always being like, you know, what's my family gonna think about it? I've actually never had that fear. Okay. Like, it's something very common for other people. They're like, wait, I have to ask my dad first, or wait, I have to ask my family first. I'm like, I don't think I've asked, like, maybe I've had to ask permission out of being kind, but never did that steer me away from following my dreams.
And that doesn't mean that you don't respect your parents.
Oh, no.
It just means at a certain age, you understand that the decisions you make, you will either bear the consequences or the rewards of them. Because that's something I find, especially when I speak to some friends, because even me, like, say, like doing the podcast, me and him were talking about it before, potentially on Mother's Day, getting like our mothers here and doing like a Mother's Day episode type thing. And we were saying how, you know, my mom every time, hey mom, I'm going to shoot a podcast episode. Oh, like, is it making money yet type thing? And like, I know it's innocent, but that's also, if somebody really, not to say I don't value my mom's opinion, but if they make decisions based on what their parents say, then they might be apt to stop as soon as their parents either crack a joke like that or kind of insert like a, hey, what is this doing for you right now type thing. Whereas with me, it's like, I wholeheartedly respect my parents. I honor my parents. But at the same time, I understand there are some decisions that I have to make because they will either change the trajectory of my life for the better or for the worse. And I know my parents want that for me. And I think sometimes, especially because, were your parents born here?
No.
So they were born overseas.
Yes.
Same as mine. So I understand they want what's best for me.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes they kind of confuse wanting what's best for me for knowing what's best for me.
Absolutely. Because that's where my parents inspired me, but also propelled me to being like, do what you love. You can work hard and still do what you love, but it doesn't mean that you have to work hard forever.
I love that. I actually want to bring you back to that disappointment thing because I think that's very important. And from people that I've spoken to, primarily women, I'd say that is something a lot of women struggle with, especially when it comes to either pursuing something that they love. Because obviously men and women, like there are similarities, there are differences, but I find typically like men are more willing to go after something as far as whether it be a profession or something that they like versus women. Like I have friends that are either good at singing or are creative people, but either because of family backgrounds or because of the fear of disappointment in family or in friends, they fear going and doing or putting themselves out there. So I'm wondering, is that a struggle you never had, or did you have to come to a point where you're like, I'm not as worried about what people might think if I drop everything and go and do content creation or start dancing or do all the things that make me happy? Because that's definitely something most people have in the back of their mind. Especially, I can say for myself, like, took me maybe a couple months before we even did this, because I had that on my mind. People would tell me, hey, you should start a podcast. But I'm second guessing myself, and I'm using the excuse of a lot of people have this already. What am I going to bring to the table that other people don't? And kind of taking away, I guess, like my flavor that I might bring to this, and just saying, this is what everybody does, and if I join, I'll just be another fish in a big pond. So how did you either overcome that, or was that something you never struggled with?
I've always struggled with it. Like, I'd be lying to say that I didn't come here being like, I'm doing a podcast. Like, what am I? I'm just following what everybody else is doing. Everyone's doing a podcast. Everyone's speaking on a podcast. But if everyone's not doing it, why can't you? And
I like that.
When I started everything that I did, I was like, I'm not qualified. Everybody watching this that's my friend and that has worked with me before knows that my excuse to myself has always been, I'm too young and I don't have experience. I've always told myself that. But it's like, I do have the experience and I have the knowledge, and it's good that I'm young. Because guess what? You're not going to hire a 70-year-old to create your content, are you?
True.
You're also... A 70-year-old is also not going to create a podcast like you can. They can create their own.
Yeah.
But they can also teach how to dance, but they're not going to do it the way I do it. And so when my fear has been disappointing people. Like, me saying I'm going to do something and then I don't do it.
Yeah.
And because that fear lingered, what you fear appears the most. So I started seeing it appear. Like, I did disappoint people. And it was like, well, that was my thought. No, like, that was my intention. My intention was I don't want to disappoint people. So what came out of it was disappointment of people.
Yeah.
Until I started, and then my mentality started to change to, like, if I do this and it doesn't go well, I could always just try something new.
Was that always your thought, or is that something?
It was always my thought. I was like, if this doesn't work out, I could always just try something else. But it wasn't a good thing, because if it didn't work out, then I would just leave.
Oh.
And again, that's something I feared, so it's something that would appear. Something hard would happen, and then I would leave. It was like, I talk a lot about coping mechanisms, and that's one of them. Just leave. Fight or flight. Let's go. Okay, good. I'm done. I don't have to deal with it.
Yeah.
And then the last thing that, like, I wouldn't say my fear is is about people. Like, I think that we either let people motivate us or we let them bring us down. And I don't believe that I have anyone around me in my life that brings me down
anymore. Or have you never had?
I've never let them affect me.
Okay.
Like, if you were bringing me down, I'd be like, yo, you're bringing me down.
Yeah.
Like
you're honest and open like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But honest and open means I was rude about it. Because I will say, like, I wasn't the nicest person. Like, be like, yo, like, why are you doing that? Like, that doesn't make me feel good. Like, okay, cool, peace out.
Yeah.
That's not exactly, like, don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't do that if someone's bringing you down. But it's like, now I'm more mature about it, of being like, hey, like, why do you think like that? Because there will be people around you that will say, like, are you sure that's a good idea? Like, you're going to start a podcast? Like, you're going to, there's a podcast that already includes the word table in it. You're really going to put the word table in it? Like, you're going to film it? You don't have the right space. Like, what are you going to do? And it's like, that fear is always going to be installed to you. But if you believe it, it will be so. But I also think that fear is necessary for you to get started. Because if you didn't have the fear, you wouldn't have started this.
100%.
And it's sometimes needed to prove yourself wrong. Like, for me, I was like, what do I know about social media?
Yeah.
I went to school for social work. Social media and social work are not the same thing. And I'm also like, people have gone to school for this. I'm 24 years old. Like, I don't have 100,000 followers. Like, who's really gonna listen to me? Then I realize is who's not gonna listen to me, because
different question.
It's the way you see the perspective. So who's not gonna be on your podcast? Who wouldn't listen to your podcast, right? Like, I know that everybody watching this probably maybe wants to start something up, or they want to start doing something, but their fear has been like, so if everyone's doing it, what's gonna make me stand out? And that's the question that you need to ask yourself. It's what's gonna make you stand out. Because if you look, like, I give the example of, if you go to 5 and 10, there's a nail shop right beside each other, there's a barber shop beside each other. And they never asked each other, like, hey, like, you getting business or what? They focus and stay in their own lane. And that's what I believe everybody should be doing. And that's kind of the approach I've been taking. I've been wanting to quit for a while in social media because I'm like, okay, well, what if it doesn't work? Should I just leave? And it's like, it doesn't work because I'm not working. And that's the reality, is things are not going to work. If you fear, I listened to this on another podcast, is what you fear or what you feel is what you end up like attracting on the other end. So if you suppress that emotion of like, I fear it, I'm scared of it, I don't want to do it, it actually comes back in a different way. And then you're like, oh, so it's not meant to be, or so I'm not supposed to do it. So yeah, definitely like, I'd like to say I have a harder mindset now, but like it's more so like tough skin. Like I've learned to like have tough skin, where if somebody tells me like I don't think you can do it, I'm just like, I don't think you can do it. You probably think you can do something, and that's why you're telling me that I can't do it. And it's learning to have grace for those people, because if it was my parents, be like, that's okay, like thank you so much for sharing. If it was a partner, if it was somebody in my life, like a best friend, and they told me like, hey, like, are you sure? Like, I don't think so. I'd be like, you know what, thank you, because sometimes that the projection is not like, it's not about me, right? It's them, that they want to start something, but they don't believe that they can do it. So they're going to project that right back on you. And that's where I always say, like, you know what, just when you find something, like, run after it. Don't look back, because the moment you look back, you're going to turn into sand. I like using that reference because it's so true. If you spend your whole time looking back, you'll never see what's in front of you.
And even what you said about tough skin, because that's very important, and that's something you develop over time. That's not something you're born with. That's something you have to develop over time. And I think
I'm a softie.
And I think the people mistake toughness for being mean, and those two things are very different. Like I used the analogy before of, I had spent some time in a country called Gibraltar. I don't know if you've heard of it.
No.
It's south of Spain. It's a British Isle. It's literally right under La Linea. I spent quite a little bit of time there, and they have these wild monkeys. They're called Barbary macaques. I think it's the only country in Europe to have wild monkeys. Like if you go there anytime, like you'll walk around and there's monkeys around. There's monkeys in the restaurants, there's monkeys on the road, and they'll take your food and stuff like that. But the monkeys don't have tails. And that was the first time that I had seen a monkey, first time I'd seen a monkey with no tail. And when I had asked one of the tour guides about the monkeys, I was like, why do these monkeys not have tails? And he had said that when they came from, I think they came from the south, or from the north, sorry, they came with tails. But because at a period in time, Gibraltar went through a winter, and because of that, they froze their tail off. And what happened was their babies were born without tails. So what they had done was they had adapted to their environment, which I found very interesting. So
that's
the parents,
amazing.
The parents had tails, their tails were frozen off in the winter, and their babies, rather than having tails, they lost their tails. Not because of anything they had done, but because their parents had endured winter, and now you are basically, I'm passing down what I've gotten, which is why I find language also is usually hereditary. Like the way your parents talk is usually passed down. So, and this is what I had said to a friend. I was like, you have this, if you constantly have this I can't do attitude, your kids will speak the same way you do. It's not just a matter of Spanish, French, and English. Like, yes, those things your kids will learn, but they will also learn the way you speak. So to have tough skin, that's also something that you pass down to your kids. So I'm wondering, is there, if like you said, you've been a softie, is there one instance you can remember where you really had to develop tough skin, or you might say the catalyst for you now having? You're laughing. Is there a story in mind?
Honestly, people just like amaze me because I've had to learn tough skin depending on who the person is. Okay. Like, my dad is tough. Like, he is a very tough Spanish Colombian father. Yeah. And that to say, like, he has so much love in him now, and it was seeing his transition of being tough to being loving that turned me from being, and it's not, here's the difference is that, like you just said, tough and mean, and then nice and getting walked over. Yeah. Okay, so I consider myself as a woman in a relationship, I got walked over. And that was because I didn't have tough skin to be like, you can't take advantage of me. Yeah. Right? You can't play with my emotions. So I consider myself to be a very sensitive woman. And I love that about myself. I think that's one of the best traits as women that we don't allow ourselves to be. Because, again, like I keep going back to like Proverbs, the Bible, and like Proverbs 31, it talks about the woman, right? The woman is sensitive. The woman is light. The man is tough. Yeah. The woman is, and I feel like I started being like, I want to be tough because I kept getting walked all over, and I was like, I want to be tough, and I want to be this big tough girl, and I started seeing like I was actually being mean.
What time period is this?
A little younger me, so like 18.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 18.
Okay.
Finishing high school. Like, you know, it's like you get walked all over and you just want to be mean. You want to be nasty. You want to, like, you don't know grace. I didn't know grace. I didn't know what loving and understanding that hurt people. I didn't get it.
Yeah,
I didn't get it then. But I get it now that it's like, you know what? If you're hurt and you're stained and something is hurt in your heart, I can only extend grace. But my tough skin won't allow you to come and check me. Because I can't let you leak into me. And that's, I think, a really good balance that I'm building. I haven't mastered it.
Yeah.
I think being sensitive and emotional, my different characteristics mix because I want to be tough, but I still get sensitive.
Yeah.
Or I want to be sensitive, but I'm tough. So I think that building that tough skin looks like you have to want to apply it in your life, right? And apply it with just about everything with grace. Like I know that tough skin may not work with some of my clients because some of them don't have tough skin. So if I come to them being like a hard body business owner, it might push them away and it might hurt them. If I come being a tough skin to my students, my youth, they might be like, whoa, chill. Like you didn't have to come out like that. But it just depends. I think there's a good balance in where you decide. But yeah, the situation that probably turned me into having tough skin was seeing like and having people in my life tell me like, you're too mean. And I was like, okay, then there's a difference between mean and tough, or you're too sensitive. And that difference, and then just I think it's just that, like, not necessarily experience. I think it's different people taught me like a different way of being and reacting.
And there's an old proverb, I don't know if you've heard of it, but it says the pain that you don't transform, you will transmit. So like you said, hurt people, and there's a reason for that. So if I'm going to incur pain, if I don't do something with it, I'm going to transmit it. Otherwise, like if I can't transform it, I'm going to transmit it. So the whole grace thing, and I love that because that's a very, very important aspect of life that I think not enough people extend. Now, I'm wondering, because you had talked a little bit, and I'd watched a little bit of your stories on like how you went from, I guess, quote unquote, like faithless to faith. So I'm wondering, when did faith start to play a massive role in your life?
Last year.
Okay.
When you know what it's like when you have a taste of something, like imagine like, you know, being able to taste like a really like warm barbecue chicken with rice and like, you know, and then all of a sudden you can't taste it. You're like, what happened? Like something's missing. So there was about like 4 or 5 months in my life where I wanted to grow my relationship with God, and I did.
Was there something that gave you that? Like,
yes, I went through a really hard time in my life. Where same kind of thing. Like I lost myself to a relationship, and I was like, I need to find who I am because you know, we need to be smart enough to realize when we're repeating cycles. Like straight up, like. It doesn't just happen, like, the same thing's happened to me, like, 3 or 4 times. Like, no, it's your fault at this point. Like, you allow it.
From the past,
you know?
are doomed to repeat it.
Exactly. So, I kept repeating the same thing over and over again. I was like, okay, well, my sister's Christian. Let me just, you know, go and figure it out. So I did a program called Celebrate Recovery.
Celebrate Recovery?
Yeah, Celebrate Recovery. So it's a faith-based program where you learn and you heal through your past hurts, hang-ups, and habits. So I did that program. It was about 22 weeks or... I don't remember. It's maybe like 4 months or 3 months, and or maybe it's longer, but it was every single Monday, and it was a really great commitment program. And like all of us, we make mistakes, right? So, you know, you can go to therapy, you can do it all, but it's applying the work. And what I was not able to do is I knew it, but there's the difference between knowing and doing it. And things in your past will always creep up, and it's up to you to be like, or like you welcome it in. Unfortunately, I was still very new in my faith, and I think that I had the tools. I just didn't know how to add them in. And that's where the importance of a community and accountability comes in, because if you don't have that, you're bound to fail. God is enough, but sometimes you need something more as a person new in your faith. And I didn't have that. So your girl kind of like stumbled upon the past again, and it happens. Like, it happens to the best of us. And I think when you're able to confess and come out with it, it's like, that felt good, right? Yeah. And so that happened, and then I didn't extend a lot of grace to myself. I was really pissed off at myself. I was like, yo, I can't believe you're doing this again. Like, God is not gonna love you. Like, here you are again making the same mistakes that you said you weren't gonna make, and now we're here. And when I had a taste of that love and that like peace that I felt when it was just me and God, like in the trenches together, being like just one-on-one, it's almost like getting to know, like being in a relationship and getting to know someone. You want to know everything about them, and you want them to be with you. Like, you want to be around. And that's how my relationship with God was for like a really big chunk of time. But when you have somebody else who can also do that and you replace God with it, that becomes a problem. So that happened for a few months, and I was like still torn, broken, and this time 7 times harder. And it, you know, that's how it happens. It usually strikes back harder. If you don't learn the first time, then you better learn the second time. And if you don't, it hurts harder that time. And I was like on my knees, like, honestly, I'm done. Like, I can't do this anymore. The pain, I don't know how to describe it. It even gets me like emotional thinking how I let myself get to the pain of like feeling so empty and not important, not significant, and still knowing that I'm not that, but identifying with nothing. So that's when I was like, I feel like I'm back at zero, but I already know the work. So what do I have to do? And that's the beautiful thing about like knowing God, and like it just amazes me that there's never anything that we can do or that we don't do that he won't love us for. And I remember being like crying, like deadbeat on my knees, like down at the ground in my basement, and I was just like, I'm sorry. And I felt the peace that I have never felt for like those 6-7 months, and it was just so beautiful to know that it wasn't what I had done, but it's where I am today, and that I was surrendering to God. So I did. Again, I, you know, had an accountability partner. I was like, listen, like, this is what I'm going through. These are my struggles. Like, can you hold me accountable? And it's so beautiful to be able to have people like that. I don't have a lot of them, and that's why I am that person to a lot of people. I open up my doors to prayer and to being an accountability partner to others, because I know that you're bound to fail without somebody. So that journey started. I got baptized in September 28th, 2021. And I honestly say I'm human. I make mistakes. We are born into sin, but it's up to us to make a decision every day to be better than we were yesterday. And that's when, like, I would say it wasn't even like faithless to with faith. It was like bottom zero, like having like being empty and broken, to now I'm a glass mirror, like being put together with some tape, but it's like invisible tape, so you can't even see that it was broken. Like, it's so weird that I'm like seeing it that way. Like, it's like I can even feel it, that like I'm broken, but it's my brokenness that allows me to be the person that I am. And again, every day it's like we make mistakes, you know, but I think that the hardest thing for me is that I don't know how to have grace for myself. So this tough skin, I also have it on me. Like, I'm like, girl, like, what's wrong? You're not posting content. You're not working on your business. You didn't pray today. Like, you know, you weren't nice to your mom today. Like, I have that to myself. That I need to learn how to now extend the same grace that God would for me. So.
Oh, I love that. Wow. And honestly, I think what you said, well, the grace thing is very important, but what I'm curious of, because obviously, like, I go to church, so I read and I have a community and stuff like that. And one thing we had talked about was, you know, generally the consensus is that, you know, once you make that decision, things get easier, and they don't. See, there we go. So things don't get easier. But not only that, there are things you still have to lose, but the loss is not a loss; it's gain if you're getting something better. So I'm wondering, when you made that decision, were there things? I'm assuming there are things you had to lose. Like, were those things you were willing to lose at the time?
No.
No.
You know what? the way you put it is exactly what I need to hear right now.
Oh, really?
Like, no one knows how I walked in here, okay? No one knows how I'm leaving out, but right now there are things that I'm currently battling with that I need to lose in order to gain. Are you willing to lose... Like, are you willing to lose the things of the world for the blessings that heaven brings? And that is our biggest struggle sometimes. It's like, because it's a tangible object, right? If I was like, this is empty. Let's say it's empty. Actually, it is empty. And I was like, I have this, but I'm not going to give it to you, but you want this because you think there's water in it. And then behind, I have like a pond full of water for you, ready for you to drink. But you want this because it's right with you right now. But what's behind me, you can't see. It's unknown. You don't know if it's actually going to be filled or not. It might be empty. It might be full. It might not be enough. But what if it is enough? And that's where it's actually such a confirmation that you asked me that question, because I've lost a lot of things, and in particular, like I know I'm mentioning relationships a lot because I've been shaped by a lot of my relationships, and sometimes it's the people that we don't want to let go of, both male or female, friends, businesses. I didn't want to let go of the club. I wanted to dance at the club, and I was teaching. I wasn't like doing bad things. I was teaching. I was staying there till like 2-3 in the morning. I wasn't being a bad person, but that's not where God wanted me to be. So if I had to let go of that money and that position in order to receive another blessing, then yes. Same thing with being a bartender. There's nothing bad with it, but it wasn't God's plan for my life. It was just temporary. I had to let it go, and it hurt.
How did you know?
I don't know. I didn't know.
It was that.
It was like a
feeling, or?
My sister has always been like my crutch when it comes to these things, and she's like, honestly, Sophia, like I think there's more for you, and I'm like, okay, well, it's one of those things that everybody around you could tell you, but unless you know it in yourself, like somebody could be like, girl, that man ain't no good, like that girl, she's trouble, and you're like, but I want it, and unless you know it for yourself, you're not gonna do it. So that's something that happened to me, is like everybody was saying like, you're meant for greater, you're meant to do greater, but I'm like, I love this job, but sometimes it's that feeling. Like I walked into work one day and an incident happened. Like it's always like something happens that confirms you're not meant to be there. In every situation, I'll pray and I'm like, God, you need to show me that I don't need to be here. And then something happens and then I'm like, that wasn't it. Like no, that couldn't have been it. Like, God, show me again. And it's like, shows me again in a different, and I'm like, that wasn't no, that couldn't have been a sign, and we want to keep telling ourselves that that's not it, and that's what kept happening, like thing after another, and it's not that there was anybody that was bad. It wasn't like a bad place. It was I served my season there. So when I left, I was in the washroom, like, I called like 30 people, like, this just happened, like, do I quit? What do I do? And they're like, Sophia, just know that if you're feeling this way, it's for a reason. The best decision that you can make is the one you make, not that anyone makes for you. So whatever you're gonna make, trust that it's gonna be the best decision. When I quit there, I cried for like 2 days.
Which, the bartender or the...
My bartending job. Okay. I bawled my eyes out. Same thing with my dance studio. I had to let it go. We had to move out of the house. I bawled my eyes out. I was like, this is my studio. This is my job.
This all in a small span of time?
Yeah. 2019, 2020.
So boom, boom.
October and then March.
Okay, jeez.
So yeah. And I made the studio in March. We didn't move out till like just last year. So very like similar, close in time, but not really. But it was always like loss. Like you see it as loss. If someone leaves, it's a loss. If I leave the job, it's a loss. If my studio's gone, it's a loss. But what you don't see is the gain towards like giving it up, right? Because who I was before that relationship and who I was before the job and who I was before the opportunity, I came out a completely different person. So it's not, I didn't really lose. It just seems like it because it's not where I expected to be.
And you also don't see it instantly. That's the
and you don't see it instantly. Anytime I've left something or someone, I was like broken, like absolutely broken. But then like, you know, you have to let yourself feel, and then let yourself cry, let yourself be hurt, let everyone around you know, have resources, but after that, it was always like, wow, like this is the piece I've been missing, like this is the silence that I get now, this is like the freedom that I have, and you don't see that. So I mean, even me knowing and have done it like already like 6 times, losing just to gain the goodness of God, losing just to gain peace, losing just to gain clarity, it's like right now, as we speak, my head is like, are you willing to lose that to get something better? And it's crazy how no matter how much we think we know and we've done it and we've experienced it, it's always going to come back because life is a constant test.
It's true.
So,
and even the value thing, you don't understand value until you have it, right? So if you're saying, to gain peace and things like this that people would deem valuable, but you don't understand their value until you have them. But not only that, I'm looking at what is valuable to me right now. So if that's a job that, provides me X amount of money, that is very valuable to me. I can't foresee or I can't see past that, because if I lose that, I don't know what happens after. And I'm going to bring it back to identity, because what you said was very important. I identify identity with season, because what we do sometimes is we stay in a season longer than we need to. We stay in a season.
Someone needs to turn off the camera.
we stay in a season longer than we need to, and the goal for my life, the goal I've always, only as of recently, I've tried to set for my life is I want to live everything in its season, so that way when the season passes, I'm not left lamenting what was lost, but living in what comes next. And the fact of the matter is, if we're bringing God in the conversation, He's not in your last season. He's in this season. So if I'm still either complaining about last season, then I'm missing what this season brings. And oftentimes you can probably use the dance example, I can use the soccer example. To love something and then for it to turn toxic is not a normal thing, but it becomes normal if you stay in that season too long. So for soccer, for me, that was something I did for too long, and I knew that. Like you said, like when I asked you how you knew about the bartending thing, and you said, I just knew. Like there were instances that happened, I'm like, yeah, this is not, I shouldn't be here any longer. It was the same thing for me for soccer, and that, maybe I stayed in that 2 to 3 years longer than I needed to.
Wow.
Only because, like you said, you identify yourself with dancing, or you identify yourself with this job, and I identify myself with what I do, when really what I do can be taken away from me at any point in time.
Yep.
Like you can lose your job at any point in time. I can get injured and never play soccer again at any point in time, but peace is not necessarily something you can lose. That's something you can give away, but to lose it is not in somebody else's power. It's the same thing with patience. Like that's something, nobody can take that away from you. People can try to, they can provoke you, but even still, to give that up is your own doing. That's not somebody else's doing. So when it comes to seasons and trying to stay in something that, I really like this, and I can't foresee me liking something just as much as this, and then you actually decide to give it up. And again, the whole, and this is really what I love about seasons, is that when you're in it, you don't understand why you're in it until after. Like I'm sure you can think of instances where, whether it be relationships, where it's like, man, I hate that I was in that, but now 3-4 years after, I'm like, okay, now I see why I was in that. Not only that, I learned what I was doing that would keep me in that. But if you're only focused on how it feels, then it's very easy to get lost in the understanding of things and trying to see, okay, I'm in this, I shouldn't be in this, or I'm at this job, I really like it, I don't want to lose it, and then something happens, or you get this urge, or you talk to a sister, or you talk to whether a faith partner or whatever, and they're like, you're meant for something else, and you're like, yeah, but this is the else that I'm talking about, or this is what it should be, and it's that constant wrestle. So like now I want to bring it to content creation, because like I said, like that's something I find that very interesting. Is that something, if we bring it into this whole, you were bartending, you were serving, was content creation ever something on your mind at that point in time when you were doing those things?
No. I was always like I was in a network marketing company during that as well. Yeah. Even while I was like, I've always loved taking photos. And when people ask me like, how did you get so good at it? I'm like, for me, I don't remember a lot of things. Okay. Like I just forget. Yeah. Like I don't remember what I did yesterday. Yeah. Sometimes I suppress things. It's just like a coping mechanism as well. And the best way for me to remember is to take photos and videos. So if you look at my phone, I have like, let me like actually tell you, I have like,
even on the way here in your car,
I have 40,000 photos and videos on this phone. I have another phone that probably.
How many gigabytes is this phone?
256.
Okay. I'm like, there's no way 64.
And I have terabytes, but
you have terabytes.
Yeah,
there's no
but
way.
I love documenting. I love creating organically, and I think that I always loved to do it, but I didn't think, and I loved always like people would talk to me and be like, hey, I have this job or this business tip or like this business idea that I'm having, and I would like share how they could make it come to life. Yeah. But I was never like, this isn't what I'm gonna do. Like I'm not like a life coach or a business coach or anything. Yeah. But then I did hire a coach. So this was 2021.
Okay.
I hired a business coach, passion coach, because at the beginning of me working with her, I just said, like, I want to do my dance career. Like, I want you to help me build my dance career. And then I was like, no, I want to become a person of, like, value, of authenticity, of creation, and do what I love. She was like, well, what about, like, social media? Like, I need help, and you seem to be good at that. So I was just, like, trying. Like, I was just testing out the waters. I didn't know if I was actually good at this. I knew that I was always on Instagram. I was always on my phone, because everyone was always like, well, yeah, where's your phone? Well, yeah. I love being on it. It literally sounds like that. Like, imagine just having a tape recorder and, like, you're always on your phone. Yeah, I know. And now it's my business, so I am always on my phone, and it's so beautiful to see the transition of judgment and, like, fear of, like, oh my gosh, like, I'm actually going to do this as a business. Like, what do you mean? How am I going to make the money? Who's going to be my client? What if people don't have the money to pay? Because I'm not going to lie, my prices are expensive, but there are for the people that can pay that price, right? So it's not for everybody. And for me, I was like, how am I going to do that? Like, what kind of person am I? That's so selfish. But it's like, I never thought that this is where I would be, to be honest. Like, my goal calendar for 2020 says by 2022, or by when I'm 24, I'm going to have a house with 5 kids, living. 24? By 24. By 20 years old, I was journaling saying, like, I want to have 5 kids, have a husband, like, live in LA.
This is the start of the pandemic. No, you said 2020?
2020.
Yeah, that's
like 2020, but also, like, 2019. Like, I remember just journaling, like, in 2 years, by the end of 2022, what's my long-term goal? Like, I remember just writing it down and being like, I'm gonna have kids, I don't know what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna travel, I'm gonna have, like, different dance conferences around the world. But it's crazy how, like I said, I want to be a speaker and talk about dancing and have many people, but that's exactly what I'm doing right now. It's just not dancing. I am speaking in front of people. I spoke in front of my church. I am speaking in front of people. This is virtual. I am hosting events, and they're not dance events, but they're content creation events. I saw that too. Congratulations on that. Thank you. And I want to go, and, like, we're planning, like, in the States as well. So it's like, it's funny how, yes, our vision could be what we want it to be. But what if this is God's vision for me? What if the vision is, Sophia, I want you to speak in front of people and start your own podcast? What if it's, I want you to speak in front of a church? What if it's, I want you to speak in front of the youth? What if it's, I want you to hold, you know, women's nights and worship nights as your events? But I'm seeing it as content. I'm seeing it as dance. I'm seeing it as this. I'm not seeing, and that's where, title, where God's like, this is just what you do. You're my child. You just do this. So it's funny, like, when I journal it, I'm just like, what if 2 years later, like, I'm not doing this? So maybe let me just be more like, intentional and not just be like, I want to have 5 kids. Like, let's just, like, leave that out of the picture, because then I'll be disappointed, you know?
So then, okay. Whew. Wow, that's actually
so content creation. I know, when you find out, when you think about it, I'm like, I'm 24 years old. Imagine me having. I look at myself. I'm like, I could never. Like,
I guess that goes to show how much you love kids. But even still,
I have nieces and nephews that are my whole entire world.
Those are your life.
Yeah.
So then, okay, I'm wondering.
You're like, girl, you wild.
No, I love it. I actually, because I'm trying to tie things together, because you said the content creation. That was never on your mind.
No.
And then before that, you're saying you never wanted to leave your job as serving or bartending. So did the content creation come as a result of you leaving that job? Like, if you don't leave those jobs, do you think you would have gotten into content creation still? Or were you, like, comfortable in those spaces?
I think that it's not until you literally leave the most comfortable position of your life that you're not forced to actually think about anything else. Like, if something... The studio had to be out of my hands, and knew that we were selling our house on September 3rd, and they were going to move in on November 3rd, and if I didn't find something to do between those 2 months, I wouldn't have anything to do. And it was like, I feel like a lot of people get lost in this, like, I don't know what to do, and so they don't do nothing. Or I don't know what to do, so I do something. And I was like, well, I'm not going to do nothing, because like, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to do nothing. That's actually, like, a little bit of a problem. Like, I don't know how to be still and not do anything. I'm always trying to, like, I could start, like, selling water bottles if tomorrow, like, content creation stops. You know what I mean? Like, but, I think that it wasn't until I literally left everything and just let it go and like, let go and let God and be like, then present to me the opportunities, present to me the people. Because if it wasn't for my coach being like, well, I'm not doing so well on social media, like, can you help me?
Yeah.
I was like, I can. I do it for myself anyways. I might as well do it for you. And then doing it for her was like then another person of like, hey, can you do this? And then another person. So I'm like, okay, so I can do this. Like, this is proof that I can. And sometimes we just need the feedback, because if you would have never done your first episode or bought the equipment or whatever, you would have never knew that you actually enjoyed it as much as you do, or that it would have gone well.
Yeah.
And that feedback is what actually helps us get going. But if you quit your job, you leave soccer, and you sit on your house, I sit at your house and I'm like, well, I don't even know if I can get a job.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know if I can do this. I don't even know if I can do that. And somebody gives you an idea like, hey, dude, like, let's start a podcast. And you're like, I don't think we can do that. Like, I'm just going to do nothing and wait for something else to come. Like, hey, dude, let's launch this. Hey, let's help me partner up with this. And you're like, yeah, I don't know. I'm just not going to do anything. It's your fault. That's now your fault. And that's what I was not willing to kind of stay complacent in, is like, I can always do something about it.
Okay.
So
let's talk about content creation now. So you had your conference.
Content Summit.
So how did that come about? Because that was a big thing for you. So how did that come about?
So long story short, I was never a fan of women. I had like a chip on my shoulder for women.
Like women?
Like women in general.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, like women, like females.
Yeah.
And here's the reason why. I grew up in high school with like a woman. What do people call it? Like a I can't find the word. It's like on the tip of my tongue. It was the whole like, I don't associate with girls because they're too much drama.
Oh, okay, I see.
So I associated myself with only men. Yeah. Like my boys, my best friends are guys.
Yeah.
Because I got in this whole like paradigm that women are evil. For like my whole high school. So that trickled into like business and it was always competition with women. It was like we could not coincide in the same space. Same with my friends. I lost a lot of friendships because I would get jealous over them or they would get jealous and we were just not friends anymore. So that was like the chip on my shoulder that I had for a really long time until I started realizing like being friends with guys can only get you so far.
Yeah.
Like, y'all are great. Yeah. Men are great. Not dissing. But women need women friendships.
Yeah.
Women need women. Men need men. Right? In lots of different areas. And that's where I was like, especially starting like working in a restaurant, like I was working with women bartenders. So it was me obviously being able to be in a group of people working together. That's part of team building. And then it was like dance. Okay, now I know I want to teach, so my demographic and like my niche is going to be women. And now come to the Content Summit. Okay, I had gotten over being with women in dance, and I was still, you know, the teacher, and they were my students. Yeah. But now I'm a part of businesses. I am equal, and I think I was always either somebody was one up of me or I was one up of them, and I hated that. I couldn't stand it. So even when I had my clients, and it was like, you're my client, so I'm serving you, and you know, I'm your provider, so I provide for you. I didn't want that to always be the case. I said, like, where can I put myself on an equal level with these women and business? And I said, you know what would be cool? There's a lot of people that probably, one, can't afford my services. Yeah. Two, the pandemic really, really pushed their business far down back and their confidence and their belief in themselves that are sitting at home wishing that they could have opportunities, but there's none. Yeah. There's no opportunities. And I said, well, I honestly prayed about this, and God gave me connection, content, community, and then creation. So I was like, oh, and then the last word was confidence. Okay. So to tie it in together, I was like, I knew this was it because the word confidence is in confidence and movement, and confidence is a lot of things that I talk about. So I was like, okay, well, this is God. And then I was like, all right, so we're going to do a community event. I told my coach, I'm like, we're going to do, and you can trace it back to the video I did with her where she was like, what's your next 90-day goal? And this was in January. And I was like, I'm going to host an event for women in business to bring them together to connect, create content confidently. And I didn't know how I was going to do it. I didn't know where I was going to do it. We were shut down. Yeah. Like, I didn't even know when this was going to happen. And it was a process of just really having that burning desire to bring women together and really bring and form a magical, like, thing there. Like, women were laughing. They were connecting. They were networking. They were creating content. They were talking about their businesses. They were talking about their hardships. And it was one place, one room for everybody to truly be on the same level. It wasn't you're better than me. It wasn't I have more experience than you. It wasn't like very saturated with the same businesses. It was everybody that was supposed to be, that was meant to be there, was there. And that was the beautiful part, is that we were sold out.
Yeah, I saw that.
Like, we had everything that was there, from the photographers to the food to the goodie bags to the people, was literally divine. So that's how it came to me. It was a burning desire to bring something together that I didn't have. Like, we didn't have the community. I didn't have the community I wanted. I desired it. And if I can't have a community, then I'm gonna make it for myself.
I love that.
And then if other people don't have that community, then you can be part of mine. And we're just building. Like, I'm literally like just amazed at how I have that desire for more in multiple cities. But I know that Toronto is where we need it the most. So this is where I'm going to focus on. New York, Miami, Atlanta will speak for themselves. Okay. But here is like where it needs to be like structured and built. So
usually when you're starting a project like that, because I've done a couple projects like that, things don't always end up the way you think they will. So I'm wondering, what were either some roadblocks or things you had to navigate around where it's like, okay, I want to do this, but this is not possible, so I have to do something else?
So the location.
Okay.
Like, everything involves money.
Yes.
So it was expensive. I didn't expect to spend as much money. I wanted to make money.
Yeah.
Right? Don't we all? Yeah. And I ended up spending a lot more money, which is fine because I focused on the service. I said, if I can find a really great space, then that's going to speak more volumes than me having like a cheaper place and making money, because it wasn't about that anymore. The second, location. A second one was me doing everything alone. I think I have this super... No, I didn't end up doing it by myself. I did want to, because I said, I don't want you to take the credit.
Yeah.
I want this to be a me thing. Like, this is my name. This is my event. It's my project. And it goes back to the titles. When we focus so much on that title, we don't allow the blessing to come in. So I actually ended up having an assistant who came in, like, divinely, helped me so much. Her name is Shundell. And she literally just worked through everything with me. I had my coach there. I had two of my best friends support me as well. And it was like, I can't believe I was trying to do this alone, and I was still exhausted. Like, I still did a lot of work. So I think the biggest roadblock is ourselves. Like, we know we want something. We have a vision. It's okay to have a vision, but it's also okay to have a different path to that. Because I wanted this. The path that I took was this. Right? But it was still the same outcome. Right? So sometimes there's different ways to do things. They might take a little longer. They might require more support. And now I know for next time exactly what I need to do, exactly what I'm not going to do. I mean, planning the event with 21 days notice was definitely I feel like I'm very impulsive in that way, where I'm like, hey, I'm going to host an event tomorrow. Who's coming? Right? That's what I did. Right? So I also think that allowing more time, being just like strategic, right, helps, like not being just of impulse. So that's definitely things that were, I would say, roadblocks. But everything, it's meant to be when it's just easy. And my coach says this all the time, is that things can be easy if you let them to. We're just the complicated ones. Like, nothing's hard. Money isn't hard. Clients aren't hard. Being happy isn't hard. We're just the complicated ones that make everything so difficult. But it could be easy if we just let it. And that's what I did. I was like, this is going to be the easiest day of my life. And that's what it was, because I let it be.
And how important is your coach to you?
Like, she's my life.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So how did you find her?
I found her on Instagram. I kept seeing like her face, and then like somebody I knew and respected a lot posted her on her story, and I was like, well, if this person knows her, then I need to know her. And I did a one call with her, and the moment like she started speaking to me, I started crying, and I was like, I need to work with you. And my program was only 6 months, and I'm on my like second half. Like, I renewed it again to work with her 6 months, because like I said, the work is never done. Right? I could have finished working with her after 6 months when I reached my goal, which was like starting my business. But I knew that wasn't the end of us working together, because I'm still a developing human. And she literally takes me, like, when I don't believe in myself, which is very often, she installs this belief in me that's like, she won't even say she believes in me. She'll say, you know exactly what you need to do. You already know like what you have to do. You're just not doing it. And then I'm like, the ding clicks.
So okay, outside, because I might know the answer to this question, but this is for someone who might not know. What are some things she provides for you that maybe you find it or found it difficult for you to provide for yourself?
Discipline.
Discipline. Okay.
Discipline, and I want to debunk the whole motivation thing, because she doesn't provide motivation.
Okay.
It's not that she motivates me, it's that she inspires me. And it's not that I don't have discipline, is that somebody else is able to bring that insight of what discipline looks like.
Okay. So
I feel like for me, she was able to install that belief that I knew exactly what I needed to do. And I was like, you're right, I do. Like, we have intuition. She has a lot of knowledge. Like, mind you, like her mentor works hand in hand with Bob Proctor, who now transitioned. Yeah. But it's very beautiful to know that the person that you're working with is very aligned and very connected to themselves, because she was able to help me connect to myself to be like, I do know what I need to do. I do know my next steps. I know exactly what I need. And it's not that I wasn't motivated, because I believe that motivation is not true.
Yeah.
I don't want to say it's a lie. Somebody's going to be like, I disagree.
Yeah.
I think that it's not true. I think that I haven't been motivated to go to the gym in a month. But why I got up this morning to go to the gym and yesterday was because I'm like, my goal doesn't reflect what I'm doing right now, which is being lazy and sitting on the couch.
Yeah.
If your goal is to work on that marathon, right, go and run that marathon, but, you've been... Part of the goal is for you to create 10 podcasts, and why you want to do that is to impact your family or to help somebody. You have a deeper why.
Yeah.
You need to be so connected to that why that anything that comes to push you down, that's the reason why you stay up. And sometimes we forget about that, and she reminded me of that. She's like, what's your why? And I mentioned it to her briefly, because she already knew what it was, and she was like, so why aren't you not going after it in all spectrum? I went after my why in my business, but I didn't go out in my why for my personal health. Part of my why is for me to be healthy, both mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally, and financially. But I was doing the financial part, but not doing the mental, the spiritual, the emotional. And that, to me, I was like, da-dang, like it clicked. So even though the action of going to the gym I didn't want to do, I still did it because my why was directly connected to that. And sometimes you need to find things outside of the actual action to inspire you so that you can have that motivation to do that. But you're not just going to be like, I'm motivated today. You motivate me. No, it's going to be like, I'm motivated and inspired by the reason why I want to do it. And whether it's money, whether it's a future, like I really, really want to provide my kids whenever I have them and my family and my partner a really good life. But I know that if right now I am not working towards it physically, emotionally, spiritually, financially, in all those ways, then it's not going to happen. Facts. So every day I look towards being the best version of myself for that me. So
I love that. And for my last question for us to wrap it up. So I'm wondering, because again, I work with like a lot of high school kids and a youth leader at Portico. So I'm wondering, as my last question, what would you say to, say, a teenage girl who is struggling with confidence and these kind of things, especially in high school, like either relating back to your own experience or things that you didn't know then that maybe your coach taught you or you've come to realize now?
Well, high school is a scary place, and I'll be straight up, and it's only it doesn't stop there. I know that's not what you probably wanted me to say, but
I want you to be honest.
It doesn't stop there, and there's always going to be things that affect you in your life if you let it. And when I was in high school, I let those things happen to me. I genuinely believe that if I knew better, I would have done better. And I think that the advice that I would give is to ask questions and have somebody that you can trust with your dear heart. Because if you do, and if that's you, you'll never fall. Because if I come to you and say like, hey, listen, like something's happened to me at school, like I really need your support, and you are there to support me, I don't think I would have failed as much. I don't think it would have hurt as much. I think I still would have, had to experience some things on my own, but it doesn't have to be as painful. It doesn't have to hurt. You don't have to be unhappy. You don't deserve to wake up in the morning and hate your life. You don't deserve to go to bed crying yourself to sleep and wake up doing the same thing. And I think another thing is placing our labels on things, like I mentioned. So for some high schoolers, I don't know how it is now, but I knew back then it was all about guys, and it was all about
that hasn't changed.
You know, who had the nicest clothes, who had, you know, the best civvies outfit, who had the best shoes, who was the flyest, who had the nicest hair. And I think in a world where we focus so much on the physical things is when you remember who you are and why you've been called to this earth, and you know that it's deeper than you just being physically here, seek within. Right? Seeking within may look like reading a book that you love, doing something you love. If you really love to dance and, you know, you want to go do it, like Google a dance class near you. Like I did that so many times where I'm like, I just want to move and like, I don't know how to, or I want to go and watch a movie and I don't know who to go with. Like I would just find out things around me that I knew would kind of help me heal. And definitely like, if you are watching this and, you know, you've been introduced to God or you've heard it or you're hearing it now and you're like, what is that thing? Who is that? I think the most important thing is remember that, like, you're here on this earth for a reason. And when you know that, I feel like it almost strikes you to want to know more about that. So I was really like, well, I want to know more. And when you want to know more, and that curiosity is where you allow God and you open up the doors for him to fill you with the answers. Because if you're not curious or you don't ask the questions, then you'll never know. So definitely, you know, find out what you love. Because if you don't, somebody else will tell you what you love. And that's not, you know. Somebody else will tell you what you love if you don't know what you love yourself. If there isn't like a parent or a parental figure or somebody that you can look up to and say like, hey, I'm going through this, find somebody that you can trust and give them your honesty in your heart, because they will give it right back to you. And believe that there is a God that can make all things happen, and no matter what you're going through, it's not too small and not too big for him to literally take you out and put you in a better situation. But it's that desire to really just be filled, and you could be where I was and like bottom on the floor being like, I don't know if I'm gonna make it, I don't know what I'm gonna do, and God can literally take you out of that and place you somewhere better that you would have never thought or even imagined. But it's just actually allowing that to happen. So it's a what is it? What does Nipsey say? It's a marathon, not a race.
A marathon, not a race.
Yeah, something like that. It's not a race, it's a marathon. And I believe and apply that to every area of my life. Like it's just it's lengthy, guys. You know, I'm here, I'm 24, and I like I said, I feel like I've been around for a while, and it's lengthy, but it's worth it. And if you allow to see every situation as a blessing and an opportunity, less than or like that you get to experience these things and not that you have to, or that this happened to you. I think that that's the biggest blessing, is understanding that things happen for you and you are exactly where you need to be, experiencing what you need to experience, and it only gets better from there.
I love that. Thank you, Sofia. Yeah. So nice having you around the table. Episode 7. Enjoy. Thank you. Lovely.